In today's episode, I'm going to tell you one story. And this story is about a group of friends who head out into the deep wilderness thinking they're just going camping. But instead, they discover something so disturbing, so unexplainable, that many of them never went into the woods again. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, scary, and mysterious stories like this, then you've come to the right place because that's all I do, and I upload 2 times a week. So, if that's of interest to you, please do me a favor by clicking on that like button so this video could go far this weekend. Also, subscribe to my channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our uploads. In the summer of 1998, 3 college friends from Oregon, Chris, Tyler, and Megan, decided to spend a long weekend camping in Washington's Olympic National Forest. This forest is absolutely massive. It spans nearly 1 million acres of old-growth trees, mountains, and wetlands, and it has one of the densest populations of black bears and cougars in the United States. But the 3 friends weren't worried about predators. They were all-season hikers. On their first night, they pitched their tents in a clearing beside a narrow stream. The evening was calm. They made a fire, cooked, and talked until late into the night. Everything felt normal. But then, sometime after midnight, Megan was jolted awake by what sounded like heavy, deliberate breathing just outside her tent. She froze, listening at first. She thought maybe it was Chris or Tyler messing with her, but then she heard the crunch of something massive moving through the brush, and just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The next morning, she brought it up to the others, but both Chris and Tyler swore they hadn't left their tents. They all laughed it off, probably a deer, and they moved on. But over the next 24 hours, things escalated. The second night, as the 3 sat around the fire, they heard this low, echoing whistle from somewhere deep in the trees. It wasn't a bird. It wasn't an owl. It was long, almost mechanical, and it stopped all 3 of them mid-sentence. A few seconds later, another whistle answered from the opposite side of the clearing. Then another, and another, until they realized they were surrounded. Chris grabbed a flashlight and shined it toward the trees. At first, nothing. But then, just barely visible between the trunks, were 2 glowing eyes, low to the ground, reflecting the firelight back at them. And as Chris kept his beam fixed on the trees, another pair of eyes appeared. And then another. At least 6 pairs, all motionless, just watching. Panicked, the group doused their fire and scrambled into the same tent, hoping whatever was out there would lose interest. The forest went silent, except for that breathing again, slow, heavy, deliberate, circling them. None of them slept that night. By morning, the clearing looked normal again. But when they went to collect their food bag from the branch they had hung it on the night before, the bag was gone. The branch had been snapped clean off, nearly 10 feet above the ground. Terrified, but determined to make it out, they decided to cut their trip short and hike back to the trailhead. But as they began walking, Tyler noticed something. On the dirt path behind them were enormous footprints. Not boots, not shoes, bare feet, and each print was twice the size of his own. For the next 6 miles, those same prints followed them, appearing in the mud and soil every time they looked back. So often, when the wind shifted, they swore they could hear that same low whistle just out of sight. Finally, hours later, they emerged from the forest and practically ran to their car. None of them ever went camping in Olympic National Forest again. Up until this day, when asked what they saw out there, they don't call it Bigfoot. They don't call it person. They just call it nightmare fuel.